I don't know. I don't even know where to start with this one, because this one is crazy. Let me start off by congratulating the author for selling over 61 million copies of the manga. That's a lot of manga. But girl, what the fuck? So today's anime review, Boys Over Flowers, has quite the reputation in shoujo manga, with several live-action adaptations, a spin-off series, even a boy band. Which is wild, considering I had never seen it before. Yeah, I'm at a loss of words, which is a rare occurrence for a yapper like myself. So let's fucking do this. 51 episodes, grab a drink, grab a snack, because I'm about to lose my sanity. Episode 1. Tsukishi Makino is our main girl, and she goes to this fancy pants high school. Why anyone would go to this high school is a really good question, because as we soon witness, there is a severe bullying problem at the school. The Flower 4, aka F4, are the richest of the rich, and they act like it, bullying and being assholes to everyone in their way.
Louis Hanazawa stopped to help.
At least, not all of them suck. Thanks for spelling that out for us, Queen. Tsukishi's only friend, Makiko, is like, hey, if I got bullied by the F4, would you stay my friend, Uwu? Because people who get bullied by the F4 are immediately outcasted by everyone. Even their own friends will join in on the bullying. Like I said, no idea why anyone attends this high school. And not even 5 seconds later, Makiko becomes the next target of the F4 when she trips and kicks the leader of the F4, Tsukasa Domyoji, in the face. Tsukishi, of course, steps in to defend her friend, but ends up going kinda off on them for acting all high and mighty, sealing her fate to be the F4's next target. Makiko, that bitch, abandons her like almost immediately, and the staff at the school is basically non-existent, so there's nothing to be done. Tsukishi runs into the seemingly nice flower boy, Louis Hanazawa, and she's like, damn, he's hot and so indifferent. And he's like, maybe you should just quit school like everyone else. And she's like, no, but my parents want me to go here, so I gotta. Okay, spill your tea to the enemy, it's whatever. And then she nearly gets kidnapped by a bunch of men, but Louis saves her and she reacts in the most bizarre fashion.
I can cope with people stealing my desk. I can cope with having eggs thrown at me. I just deal with it and move on. But I don't know how to deal with someone being so kind to me like that.
What do you mean? But Tsukishi's like, I'm tougher than this, so she declares war on the F4. Episode 2. Tsukishi wants to thank Louis for saving her from those goons, but he's low-key rude to her.
It's strange. I don't really care that he hasn't said one nice thing to me.
Girl is setting herself up to be played. Where's the logic in this thinking? Then Tsukasa kidnaps her. I was joking at first, but they literally drug her. And when she wakes up, someone is trying to strip her? What is happening? I was honestly scared. Like, this is scary. What the fuck is going on? But it's not Tsukasa, thank the Lord. It's his maids, and they're giving her a makeover. Tsukasa is willing to hang out with her outside of school.
Of course, you'll never be as much fun as my sister was.
And is like, I'll give you anything you want and more. Just say you like her, bro. But obviously our girl is not bowed out, and she leaves.
Sis?
Why'd he say sis like that? Is he actually into his sister? New day at school, someone wrote a nasty rumor on the chalkboard, basically calling her a whore. But girls protect girls, and these popular girls sympathize with Tsukishi and invite her to a casual hangout. But psych! She shows up majorly underdressed because these girls are trying to humiliate her. Episode 3. So the mean girls are flexing their wealth, but the guys flock to Tsukishi because she's got a fresh look. So mean girl A calls Tsukishi a slut, which the guys just automatically believe for some reason. Also, why are they picking a fight at an exclusive club? That's just gonna look bad for you, hun. But Tsukishi stands her ground, bless up, but in the most bizarre way possible.
Attention please, ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you something. This piece of technology can tell us your true feelings. I predict it'll tell us you're only here to get a good-looking guy. Don't be ridiculous.
That's like grabbing a mood ring and putting it on someone's finger and going, hey, it's yellow, you're nervous, because this is super scientific and not at all a children's toy. But Tsukushi still leaves, defeated, because the mean girls kept referencing Louis' true love, and girl is in #denial, despite drooling all over him for the past 2.5 episodes. The mean girls even show Tsukushi a picture of Louis' love, Shizuka, who is off modeling in Paris. And she further learns from Akira and Sojiro, the other F4 members, that Shizuka is Louis' first and only love. When they were kids, he was shy and reserved, but Shizuka really brought him out of his shell. Tsukushi heads home, where she finds Louis making out with a poster of Shizuka. You cannot make this shit up. That would dissolve all of my feelings, to be honest. So Tsukushi is like, so you like her? And he's like, oh, you like me? And he gives her a little cheek kiss. Oh, with those nasty poster kissing lips? Hell no! Next day at school, Shizuka arrives back home and fully kisses Louis on the lips. Episode 4. But she kisses everyone in F4 on the lips because that's how they do it in France. And they take her to a fancy dinner where Louis gets all pouty because she took such scandalous photos, as if the dude wasn't making out with one of them. But he do apologize, so I guess it's fine. Anyways, new transfer student Kazuya arrives, and he's actually an old childhood friend of Tsukushi's. Tsukasa is peak jealousy, so he very maturely declares war on Kazuya. And Tsukushi is pissed. She's like, it's one thing to bully me, but another thing to harass my friends. And Tsukasa, again, super mature, is like, it's your fault. And she's like, he's my bestie. I love him. I'd do anything for him. And this motherfucker slaps her. And she punches him back. But she tells Kazuya, she's like, maybe you should transfer because it's only gonna get worse. But he's like, no, not without you, because he's madly in love with her. So they get chased into this restaurant that actually might be the school cafeteria, it's unclear, where the F4 is catching up with Shizuka and her life in Paris. And they all see Tsukushi and Kazuya getting tormented, but then Louis saves Tsukushi from getting mopped. Episode 5. Kazuya mysteriously vanishes from the background. I'm pretty sure they forgot to draw him in. And Tsukasa is like, okay bro, but put her down. And Louis is like, you've gone too far. And Tsukasa, just being the calm, collected person he is like, the fuck? You like her? I'ma red card you. And they literally play tug of war with her body. Shizuka helps clean up Tsukushi, and she's like, you know, I think Louis likes you. I've never seen him react that way before. Thought he wanted me, but I guess not. But she's not salty because she's a queen and also possibly doesn't even have romantic feelings for Louis. Kazuya finally reappears with a new bully kink unlocked, and he invites Tsukushi to his villa, but she passes out. You know the dude doesn't stand a chance romantically when he can't even catch her from falling. Tsukasa is acting like a child.
We're not friends anymore, remember?
And he barges into Tsukushi's home to see if she's actually sick. Her family caves to the rich boy status and invites him to dine with him. And Tsukushi's like, oh my, his table manners. And that's how you know the writers were desperate to find one decent quality about the dude. Her parents force her to walk him home, and Tsukasa low-key invites Tsukushi to join him in Hawaii for summer break. But she's like, no, I got plans with Kazuya at his villa in Otami. Mistake number 1. Never tell your enemies to lovers character where you're vacationing because you know he's gonna follow you there. Episode 6. Tsukushi and her family stay at Kazuya's villa, and they're admiring his boat when a yacht shows up. How close to the shore is this thing? They're gonna get beached. Obviously, it's Tsukasa's. All of F4 is there, plus Shizuka and the mean girl trio. They probably have names, I do not care. Anyways, Shizuka invites Tsukushi to join them for a party that evening. Love Shizuka. She immediately shuts down the bully's protests and offers to lend Tsukushi an outfit. Tsukushi's parents force her to go. Not sure if Kazuya was invited because no one talked to him, but Shizuka is like, yeah, I've always wanted a girl bestie, and they are the 2 hottest girls in the yacht. Louis dances with Shizuka, and Tsukasa gets swarmed by the single ladies. Kazuya, who I guess was invited after all, offers to dance with Tsukushi, but she brutally rejects him. To be fair, she ain't interested, dog. Then the lights shut off, and an announcement is made saying that it's time to play Kiss in the Dark. Sounds like a surefire way to get sexually assaulted, but Tsukushi is pushed by the crowd into the lips of none other than Tsukasa. And a minute of dramatic music is played afterward to really let the weight of this action sink in. Real talk though, a bump into a kiss cannot be that romantic. Like, it probably hurts more than anything. Also, Tsukushi is shorter than Tsukasa, so how is she able to reach his lips when falling forward? Like, it makes more sense for her to smack into his crotch or something. I know it's TV magic, but still. Episode 7. Tsukasa is just his usual charming self, and Tsukushi flees in embarrassment while Kazuya screams in horror. I'm not joking, he literally screams. And Tsukushi's like, no, my first kiss, which Tsukasa hears because he followed her. And she's crying and she runs away. Later the next day, Tsukushi attempts to return Shizuka's dress when she overhears Shizuka and Louis talking about her. And Shizuka ships them, but Louis is pissed and he totally disses Tsukushi, so she's not having a baller time. But then Tsukasa and Kazuya show up. I guess Kazuya had challenged Tsukasa to a fishing competition, which he dominated at, and they low-key bonded a little bit, and they cheer Tsukushi up.
After the night I've had, these two are just what I need to cheer me up.
Meanwhile, Louis dragged Shizuka to his bedroom and was going to assault her, but he's like, why are you so calm about this, Shizuka? And she's like,
in actual fact, it's quite flattering, knowing that you want me so badly that you'd even attempt to do that.
How is assault flattering? But I guess she's secretly down bad and wants to smash. Unfortunately for them though, Tsukasa interrupts theirs and everyone's nights to show off the mountain of squid he and Kazuya caught. Tsukushi lets it slip as she overheard what Louis said, and he's like, why do girls always put on a brave face? And she's in love with him again. Not that she was ever not in love with him, but she's swooning again. Episode 8. Girl continues to obsess over Louis and get harassed by Tsukasa. Akira and Sojiro are like, bro, you're kind of obsessed with her. And Tsukasa's like, nah, she's obsessed with me, and I'm going to date and dump her for the shits and giggles, which the mean girls overhear.
Did you hear what they were talking about? You know, she's really starting to piss me off.
She's just now starting to piss you off? Girl, I think we crossed that bridge a long time ago. Tsukushi has Louis use her emotion detector to see if he hates her. This is not science, this is not factual, but our girl wears her heart on her sleeve and she's like, I spent all day looking forward to seeing you. Tsukasa overhears the whole thing and he is shocked. He really thought she was into him with zero basis. Was he using an emotion detector too? And then the mean girls show Tsukasa a video of Louis and Tsukushi hanging out together on his yacht. Just the classic behavior you want to see out of your potential love interest. And you think Mean Girl A would see this behavior and back off, but she keeps yapping away about how Tsukushi is so in love with Louis, so he slaps her. Everyone is like, chill, Louis is obsessed with Shizuka, Tsukushi will never be happy. But Tsukasa wants revenge for being humiliated.
Do you remember a few years ago when he punched that guy in our class and the kid nearly died? That look in his eyes was the same.
Episode 9. Shizuka stops by the school and invites Tsukushi to attend her birthday party. Then everyone witnesses Tsukasa railing on some no-name bystander. Even Akira and Sojiro are like, whoa, chill dude, but he's lost it. Luckily for No Name, the health teacher steps in and stops the fight. I haven't mentioned her until now because for the most part she does nothing other than occasionally saying some woke shit. Anyways, Kazuya invites Tsukushi over to study, but she forgot her books on the staircase where she visits Louis. So she runs back to find Tsukasa looking like a sociopath.
Hey, little girly.
Ew, what? So I also haven't mentioned this until now, but Tsukushi has this cactus that records voice memos, and she basically uses it as a diary to record her thoughts and feelings. God knows why, but earlier she recorded herself saying that she was in love with Louis. Why would you bring that to a school full of bullies? Anyways, Tsukasa found it, and he wall slams her and is threatening her. He even punches the door next to her face. This man will end up in jail one day, and none of us will be surprised. Obviously, Tsukushi tries to run away, but in classic horror movie girl fashion, she trips and falls. Because we've officially switched genres, this is now a horror story, and Tsukasa is able to slowly walk like Michael Myers and catch up to her, so she's either slow as hell or he's got the legs of Slenderman himself. Either way, she's begging for mercy as he pins her to the floor and assaults her. Actually gets really freaky. I know it sounds jovial, but I cannot convey the fucking fear I felt as I watched this scene. This is a nightmare. He's one of the romantic interests. So he finally stops after she's been sobbing no for 10 minutes, and he skips school for days, and Tsukushi is so nervous that she'll see him at Shizuka's birthday party. So she invites Yuki, her #1 bestie and coworker, and Kazuya to tag along with her. Which is pretty weird, you should invite people to someone else's party without their permission? Episode 10. But it's fine, I guess, because it's a huge party, and the F4 are there, and my man cannot keep his eyes off Tsukushi. She flashes back to when he assaulted her. In fact, she flashes back to the assault scene 3 times in this episode, so there's no way any of us can forget what happened. So I've been traumatized numerous times for this fucking review. Louie shows Tsukushi and her friends what foods to try, and she literally thinks, I can't enjoy crushing on him because I feel unclean. Someone call the police. I know he'll get away with it because he's rich, but let it be on his record, please. And we cannot get away from creeps because there's this producer who's known to harass women. Shizuka, why'd you invite him? Who invited him? And he's harassing this redhead, and Tsukushi calls him out, and he grabs her in retaliation, so she destroys the dude. Akira literally has to hold her back, and everyone cheers because they hated the guy. The redhead thanks Tsukushi, weirdly knows her name, but there's no time to contemplate because Shizuka is making an announcement. She's returning to France and is never coming back. And then she chops off her hair. Everyone is shocked. Louie leaves early. Tsukushi wanders away from the crowd, feeling sick from overeating, and she runs into Tsukasa. And they banter away like nothing ever happened until Tsukushi's like, hey, can you apologize for assaulting me? Obviously he does not. Instead, he blames her for it. But karma is a girl's girl, and Tsukushi vomits all over him and faints. Next day, Tsukushi checks in on Louie's mental state, and he's like, yeah, she's leaving, and there's nothing to be done. And Tsukushi is like, oh yeah, I'm about to swoop in and steal your heart. Episode 11. Tsukasa is trying to demand an apology from Tsukushi for the vomit fiasco, but she gets distracted when she overhears the mean trio scheming to get with Louie now that Shizuka is out of the picture. And Tsukushi is like, I cannot believe I was thinking the same thing as these lowlives. So she finds Shizuka and begs her to stay for Louie's sake. And Shizuka listens, but she's like, I'm sorry, but this is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. So Tsukushi apologizes, and they're cool. But Louie overheard this conversation, and my man's not cool with Tsukushi's attempted interference. Finally, it's time for Shizuka to leave. Everyone sends her off with a goodbye, except for Louie, notably. He appears out of the shadows, and Tsukushi is calling him out for not saying how he feels when he reveals that he booked the next flight out to Paris. Tsukasa then decides to ask her out, but she doesn't hear him because it's loud at the airport, and he just assumes that she said yes. Episode 12. At school, the mean girls are giving Tsukushi a hard time for losing her crush, until Tsukasa waltzes up and tells Tsukushi to meet him on the weekend for their date. However, she goes grocery shopping with her mom instead. 2.5 hours have passed since the agreed upon time, agreed being used loosely in this instance, and Tsukushi decides to go see if he actually waited, which he did, all covered in snow. Tsukushi offers to buy him a hot drink as an apology. She takes him to this raggedy department store, and wouldn't you know it, they get stuck in an elevator. It is super awkward, and Tsukasa, who is sick from being out in the cold for hours, passes out on top of Tsukushi. She at first thinks he's trying to assault her again. Remember that? Yeah, in case you didn't, here's another flashback. But when she realizes that he's sick, she goes into nurse mode. Tsukasa trauma dumps about his lonely childhood and how he hasn't seen his parents in 2 years. Tsukushi is like, I hit you earlier, you can hit me back if you want. But he goes in for a kiss instead, when the elevator doors are finally pried open. Episode 13. Everyone is now acting nice to Tsukushi, including the mean trio. Somehow, a newspaper took a picture of her and Tsukasa together and posted the article the same day, and everyone thinks they're dating. Also, that redhead from before, turns out she's a fellow student named Sakurako. The mean trio does not like her, and they invite Tsukushi to a club. There's this sexy blonde that low-key looks like Louie Hanazawa, and he invites Tsukushi to dance. Next thing we know, Tsukushi wakes up nude in a hotel room. Was she roofied? If she does not remember, it is not consensual. Sakurako invites Tsukushi over to her house, where she reveals that her parents are dead and she was bullied as a child, which is why she respects Tsukushi for standing up to the F4. She acts a little insane, but Tsukushi has no time to feel confused because Sakurako's friend/roommate is Thomas, the man who 100% assaulted her. Episode 14. Tsukushi freaks out upon seeing Thomas, who obviously remembers her. When Sakurako leaves to get some more tea, Tsukushi begs the guy to never speak a word of their encounter. Thomas is like, but I want to remember everything and tell everyone, unless we see each other again. So Tsukushi agrees. Let's be 100% real right now. They did not smash. She would not be the heroine if she lost her virginity to some dude whose last name is never mentioned. But that does not change the fact that someone took her clothes off while she was passed out. That's fucked up. Tsukushi gets a letter to meet Thomas for their date,
In some ways, this guy Thomas is more dangerous than Tsukasa.
and she brings Kazuya along for moral support.
I've never met a real live foreigner before. Do you think he'd mind if I tried to speak to him? Bonjour!
Thomas has the nastiest table manners. No wonder Tsukushi was impressed with Tsukasa's. He just farted! What the hell? So the day ends as poorly as it started. Tsukushi goes clubbing, but this time with Yuki and her older sister, where they see Sakurako. Some girls are being nasty to her, but she is vicious back, villain laugh included. Episode 15. Tsukushi can't believe that Sakurako could be the same person she saw at the club. When Tsukasa is a nasty piece of work towards Sakurako, Tsukushi comes to her defense. But Sakurako yells at her for yelling at Tsukasa. So Tsukushi is like, be real, do you like him? And she's like, yeah, I do. Are you two actually dating? And Tsukushi admits that they aren't. New Day and Tsukushi receives a warning from Mikiko to be careful. Thanks for the incredibly cryptic message, Mikiko. But everyone has turned very nasty to her because a photo was posted of her and Thomas together. Tsukushi is pissed, so she hunts down Thomas to demand who took the photo of them together. Obviously it's Sakurako, who reveals that no, nothing even happened with Thomas apart from the fact that they stripped her. Sakurako just wanted the F4 boys wrapped around her finger, and Tsukushi vows to make her regret it. Episode 16. Tsukushi weirdly hopes that Tsukasa hasn't seen the photo, as if he didn't assault her 7 episodes ago. Anyway, some guy hits her with a baseball bat. The bullying here has always been a problem, but now it's escalated to crime. Still, Tsukushi is able to win a 1v5 with broken ribs, but she's soon quickly outnumbered. Luckily, Tsukasa shows up and breaks up the fight. Unluckily, Sakurako shows up with like 50 plus photos of Tsukushi passed out near a clothed Thomas. Crazy that he doesn't question where she got all these photos, but instead walks away in disbelief. He numbly follows Sakurako back to her place, where she confesses, but Tsukasa pushes her away and is like, nah, Tsukushi is innocent, I gotta go save her. Meanwhile, Tsukushi is tied up to the side of a car. How fast is she running that she can keep up with this car? Not fast enough, clearly, but Tsukasa reappears and breaks up the fight again. He apologizes for leaving her, but it's kinda late for that, and she seriously needs to go to a hospital. Even if the car was only going 10 miles an hour, she will have some serious abrasions and maybe a concussion from hitting her head on the pavement. Episode 17. Let's go. Go where? A hospital, perhaps? She needs medical attention. But instead of medical attention, Tsukushi gets a free shirt and carried princess style back to Tsukasa's house, where she cleans up. And while she's in the bath, she's thinking, jeepers, I took advantage of Tsukasa by letting everyone believe I was his girlfriend because I love the attention. As if Tsukasa didn't also let everyone believe the rumors. Side tangent aside, Tsukasa invites Tsukushi into his bedroom.
Stop it!
At first, I thought she was getting assaulted again, but it's just a wound cleaning scene. Tsukasa straight up confesses, and he's leaning in for the kiss, but Tsukushi is like, no, wait. But obviously he doesn't listen. Tsukushi runs out after, all blushly.
Why did I allow him to kiss me? Unless, deep down, I really wanted him to.
She said no, and he ignores her, and now she thinks she wanted the damn kiss. She's gaslighting herself. Next day at school, Tsukushi discovers that Tsukasa has planned to torment every single person who hurt her, aka half the student population. One of the bullies pisses himself in fear of being murdered, but Tsukushi convinces Tsukasa to drop the witch hunt, and Louis is now back from Paris. Episode 18. Tsukasa is not pleased with Tsukushi's reaction to seeing Louis, so he says that they're dating. They're not. And they all leave without pulling the bullies up, so I guess they all died of asphyxiation. Tsukasa gives Tsukushi a pager so he can contact her for dates and things. Remember pagers? I don't, because I'm too young. Tsukushi bumps into Thomas and he apologizes and tells her that Sakurako was bullied by the F4 for being ugly, which is why she had plastic surgery and wanted to win over their affection so badly. The mean trio somehow gets their hands on photos of pre-surgery Sakurako and show off how ugly she was. Even the F4 join in, saying that her personality sucks and she looked better before the surgery. We can agree on the personality thing, but come on! Y'all were drooling over her just an episode ago. Our queen doesn't stand for bullying, so even though Sakurako is enemy number 1, She calls out the mean girls like a boss. It gets better though. She asserts her boundaries, saying, I haven't forgiven you yet, but maybe with time I could. And Sakurako apologizes. Later, Tsukushi meets Louis on the steps, just like old times. But unlike old times, he makes a move on her.
Forget all about Tsukasa. Will you go out with me?
Episode 19. He clarifies that he was joking. You know how she feels about you. That was an awful joke. Even if she didn't, confessing is not a cool prank. I'm getting war flashbacks. Louis also says Tsukasa clearly likes you, and bro code. But he still is low-key flirty, so I'm not sure if he actually knows what bro code means. Tsukasa takes Tsukushi and the squad to his island. Oh, to be a billionaire. Tsukushi is judging these two seemingly nice girls for no reason.
The guys obviously didn't choose them for their brains.
Tsukasa, I guess, plans on sharing a bedroom with Tsukushi. Apparently, that's the vibe of this trip. Sojiro and Louis Hanazawa are apparently very sexually active. Time to get laid. But surprisingly, Tsukasa does not force Tsukushi to smash. He plans on sleeping on the couch.
You know how I feel about you, but I've no idea how you feel about me. I really need to know because I don't want to sleep with a girl who doesn't love me, Tsukushi.
That would be a sweet thing to say if his earlier actions didn't contradict this behavior. And he goes on to say, I can't control myself forever. Get a grip, dude. But I agree that Tsukushi should give him an answer, and that answer should be no. She takes a stroll on the beach to clear her head when she runs into Louis, meaning he's not smashing that other girl. So when he asks if he can hold her hand, she readily agrees. Episode 20. Louis reveals that while living with Shizuka in Paris, he had never been happier. But eventually, Shizuka had returned to college and her job, and he discovered how helpless he was, how little he had grown. Tsukasa pages for Tsukushi, so she returns to the mansion. He was genuinely worried about her safety, and she lies about what she was doing. Why? If you had been honest, like, yeah, I went on a walk and I ran into Louis, everything would have been fine, but nah, drama. Next day at the beach, Tsukasa sees that Louis has Tsukushi's pager. And Louis is honest about it. He's like, yeah, Tsukushi left it last night. So Tsukasa asks Tsukushi where her pager is, giving her a chance to be honest. But my girl keeps lying. Kazuya and Sakurako fully dive into stalker behavior because they show up, uninvited, and with the news that Shizuka's getting engaged to some French heir. So Tsukushi sneaks out again to meet Louis on the beach, and she's crying and she low-key confesses, which makes Louis forget about his alleged bro code because he kisses her. Episode 21. So they're kissing, but then they realize Tsukasa is there, and he's mad.
I told you how much I loved you. I opened up my heart and I gave it to you. But then, you go and smash it into 1,000 pieces.
And Tsukushi feels bad for hurting him. Consequences of your own actions, darling. And Tsukasa leaves, abandoning everyone on his private island. I guess it's a good thing Kazuya showed up after all with his boat. Back at school, F4 is grilling Louis for forgoing bro code, and Tsukasa kicks him out of the group. Again, but this time it's serious. Tsukushi apologizes to Louis for making him lose all of his friends, but he's chill about it, and he invites her out on a date. Episode 22. It's date time. Louis finally cut his hair, to my dismay. I liked it long. And it is such an awkward date. Like, neither of them plans anything, they don't have anything in common. At one point, Louis literally walks in on her taking a piss. And somehow they end up at Louis' house. Bro has zero decor in his bedroom like a sociopath, and he falls asleep on their date, so she ends up leaving. And she ends up seeing Tsukasa with Sakurako. Episode 23. Tsukushi witnesses Tsukasa inviting Sakurako back to his place, and she's devastated. Lord knows why. And as she's walking home, depressed, some creep tries hitting on her. Luckily, this gorgeous girlie saves the day.
I hope you didn't mind me getting rid of that pushy guy. It's just that I got back from America today, and you hear about women being abducted all the time over there.
This lady is convinced that Tsukushi is in shock, so she forces Tsukushi to come back with her to her house. And she's revealed to be Tsukasa's older sister, Tsubaki. Tsukushi hides so that Tsubaki can't introduce her to Tsukasa, but she gets lost in their mansion. Yet, Tsukasa is still the one to find her, in his hallway to hell. Seriously, where's the furniture in people's houses? And he's pissed, and he won't listen to her explain why she's there.
You know, I could have you arrested for trespassing.
She was literally invited in. Tsubaki saves the day again and beats the consciousness out of him. Tsubaki weirdly is on our girl's side, even though they just met. Love you, appreciate you, but why? Next day at school, Tsukasa announces that Louis has been kicked out of the F4, and everyone reacts as if they didn't hear him say that 2 episodes ago. Episode 24. Tsukasa adds that he also plans on getting both Louis and Tsukushi expelled, and seeing as how we've seen only 2 teachers in this school, it'll probably be super easy for him. And also his family funds the entire school, so he really do own the place. Akira and Sojiro try to change his mind because Louis is their friend, but Tsukasa is stubborn AF and even replaced Louis with Kazuya. Tsubaki learns about his plans when she corners Kazuya, because unlike Akira and Sojiro, he is a beta male and can be easily threatened. New day, Tsukasa is threatening the principal by withholding the funds, but Tsubaki shows up and stops him. Tsukushi offers to leave willingly, but Tsukasa gives her a depressed puppy stare. Louis also volunteers to leave, but Akira and Sojiro are like, no, if Louis goes, we all go. Kazuya joins in too, but nobody cares. So Tsubaki decides to settle the whole thing with a game of 3v3 basketball? You can't make this shit up, I swear. Winners get to choose what happens. I'm also not sure why Akira and Sojiro are on Tsukasa's team, because they seem pretty heavily Team Louis. Also, it's just not a fair matchup at all. Everyone in the F4 are basketball pros, but Tsukushi and Kazuya have not played before, so there's no hope. Episode 25. Tsukushi runs into Tsukasa on her way home, and he hugs her, and he says, if you say you love me, I'll cancel the whole damn thing. But she doesn't. Then he tries to assault her again, like that's ever worked in your favor. I don't even know what to say at this point, honestly. Especially because he's like, do you really hate me that much? Guy, you just tried to assault her! She should hate you, but doesn't. It's game day, and I guess the entire school is watching. Team Tsukushi is losing badly, but Louis realizes that Tsukasa's weakness is Tsukushi, so he starts flirting with her to rile him up. So they start catching up in points, but with 10 seconds left, they're still behind, and it's Tsukasa's ball, but he forfeits and leaves. Episode 26. Tsukasa wanders off to God knows where, all depressed. And the only reason I'm mentioning it is because these random strangers call him an ableist slur, which is crazy considering it's heavily implied that Louis has autism. Tsubaki invites everyone over for dinner and she gets shit-faced. Akira and Sojiro want to know how far Louis and Tsukushi have gotten, and Tsukushi's like, chill, we've only kissed. So Tsubaki is like, hey, we have bedrooms, and then they force Tsukushi and Louis into a bedroom. Tsukushi starts sweating, but Louis is clearly not interested.
I realize now, when I look at you up close, you're not very pretty at all.
Tsukasa comes back home and learns that Tsukushi and Louis are in a bedroom together, but surprisingly is not violent. And Tsukasa announces that he's going to New York. Episode 27. Tsukushi's father got fired from his job, and now they live in a broken-down building. She overhears Tsukasa's plans to move to New York, and she calls him a coward, but he's determined to go. Louis is like, remember how you called me out for not confessing to Shizuka before she left for Paris? Well, right back at you, sister. But Tsukushi's like, nah, it's different. Everyone sees Tsukasa off at the airport, except for Tsukushi. Kazuya reveals that it's because her family is now in debt to some loan sharks. Louis gives Tsukasa the cactus recorder, where he reveals that he never smashed Tsukushi. Bro code, baby! Tsukushi gets a phone call from Tsukasa, where he offers to pay for her family's debts if she meets him in Vancouver, Canada. Not sure how they are paying for that phone bill, to be honest. Episode 28. Akira and Sojiro end up tagging along on this road trip, and presumably pay for Tsukushi's plane ticket. And Yuki's, her coworker slash bestie, who she brought along. Presumably. They never fully explain how she's able to get to Canada. The Bean Trio and Sakurako invite themselves along, and it's a whole chaotic party at Tsukasa's vacation home in the mountains. Tsukushi is in the worst mood, and it's super awkward for everyone involved. The Mean Trio is not happy to see Tsukushi and Tsukasa back together again, even though they are literally fighting all the time. So when Tsukushi is looking for Yuki that evening, they tell her that she went snowboarding out in the blizzard. And I guess Yuki is pretty naive, so Tsukushi believes them, and she goes out into the blizzard to find her. But lo and behold, Yuki did not go out into the blizzard because she's not an idiot, and now Tsukushi is lost out in the middle of God knows where, and she twists her ankle. Episode 29. Tsukasa goes after her, which upsets me greatly because I was in denial about him being the one she ends up with, but he went out into a snowstorm for her. He luckily does find her, and he takes her to some rando cabin.
Hurry up and get undressed.
But he's not being a creep. They very well could die from hypothermia. I just hate the convenience of this plot device. So they get naked and they snuggle up by the fire, and they have the funniest interaction.
Tsukasa, you're a nice guy.
Listen, calling a guy nice isn't much of a compliment, you know. I'd much rather be known as a gentleman.
A gentleman? No. But right now you are warm and cozy. And nice.
He's like, call me a gentleman. And she's like, I wouldn't go that far. The next morning, the fire is completely out. It's a miracle they didn't freeze to death in the night. Tsukasa's like, I thought you were going to die. Don't do that shit to me again. Anyways, they return, and the mean trio's punishment for lying, I guess, is to do the chores. And even though they almost kill her, they go right back to being bullies in the next episode. Episode 30. Literally, they are trying to kill her again. But some nerd breaks the tension by accidentally dropping his books on them. And he is just a weird fella. Maybe because we can't see his fucking eyeballs? His name is Junpei. Then he compares their relationship to ants, but somehow it's romantic.
I've put 2 ants on this paper plane. This one's you, and this one's me. I wish we could fly away together, just like this.
Those poor ants! What did they do to deserve that? After work, Tsukushi bumps into Junpei and he offers to be her friend. I don't know how she keeps falling for these traps, because every time we meet a new character, they're shady as hell. And then he strong-arms her into doing a photo shoot with him, because he's actually a model incognito. And she's very verbally against doing it, but he's like, it's fine, no one will see these. Then why even bother doing it? Episode 31. Anyways, those photos he promised no one would ever see? Well, they are on the front cover of a magazine. So our girl rightly calls him out, but he just brushes it off. But Tsukashi's like, no, fuck you. And then he forces her into an apology hug. Tsukasa sees the hug and he's like, what the fuck? And Junpei introduces himself as Tsukashi's boyfriend.
What are you saying? Please shut up!
Well, I'm a boy and I'm your friend, so that makes me your boyfriend.
Obviously pisses off Tsukasa. Junpei is like, hold up, we can solve this. Tsukashi, do you like Tsukasa romantically? Yeah, he's an asshole, I'm sure you don't. Tsukasa starts beating on him, and Tsukashi screams for him to stop.
You waltz around the school like you own the place. And like you own me. I need my own space. I need to find some peace and quiet, and then maybe I'll be happy. Please, leave me alone. Just leave me alone.
Love this. Assert your boundaries, queen. Clap back. So she starts leaving, but Tsukasa confesses again. Bro, did you not just hear her say she needed space? What are you doing? Tsukashi doesn't respond because I guess she doesn't believe him. Actions do speak louder than words, and he assaulted her, so... Later on, Junpei and Tsukashi are nearly murdered by a falling pot, of which Junpei suspects Tsukasa is responsible. But Tsukashi is like, no, he wouldn't do that. Not because she's like, I know him better than that, but because he's not sneaky like that. Dude is confrontational and everyone knows it. If he had a problem with them, he would say it to their faces. But he is oddly missing from the scene. And when Tsukashi gets another red card, she's like, oh my god, he's pissed. So she has to jump out a window to avoid getting tormented by her peers. Again, why would anyone go to the school if this was a possibility? Junpei helps her get away, but somehow she still ends up getting kidnapped. Episode 32. So our girl has been kidnapped and they chop off some of her hair. Junpei is revealed to be the ringleader of these kidnappers. He's the one who set up that trap and red carded her. I guess his comrades were worried that he was fallen in love, so they kidnapped her early, which is why the last episode ended the way it did. And the whole reason they kidnapped her is because they're using her to bait out Tsukasa. Apparently, Tsukasa's done them all dirty, but especially Junpei. His older brother stood up against the F4 in middle school, and Tsukasa beat him to death's door.
Do you remember a few years ago when he punched that guy in our class and the kid nearly died?
The F4 finally located Tsukasa, and are telling him about the red card, when they receive a message that Tsukushi's been kidnapped. Tsukushi, meanwhile, is spitting fire. She's like, "You're stooping to their level, you're a stinking criminal," which prompts Junpei to assault her. How many times is Tsukushi gonna get assaulted? That's all this show is. Tsukushi is convinced Tsukasa won't come to save her, but he does. And they beat him up very viciously. He doesn't fight back because he's worried that Tsukushi will get hurt. But when Junpei throws a chair at him, Tsukushi jumps in and takes the blow, which prompts Junpei to call off the fight and they leave. Tsukashi's like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" And Tsukasa's like, "Obviously not."
I had to protect you, little girlie.
I'm gagging. I hate it when he calls her that. It's not an endearing pet name. Thank God he passes out. Episode 33. Tsukushi wakes up in the hospital. Weird that she went to the hospital when she took a chair to the back, but not when she was literally being dragged by a car. She rushes to go see Tsukasa, and everyone is crying because he died. Just kidding, it's a prank, ha 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 ha. So funny. Tsukushi is understandably pissed, but Tsukasa doesn't get why.
Well, if that's how you want it, then it's fine with me. See if I care. Maybe I should have just minded my own business and let those guys beat you up and strip you of your lily-white virginity.
Bro, what the fuck? Tsukushi starts crying, and she's like, "I don't know what I would have done if you had died." And he's like, "No, don't cry. I'd do anything for you, my little girlie." Stop calling her that. Junpei shows up, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not sorry for hitting Tsukasa as he nearly killed my brother, but I am sorry for involving you, Tsukushi." But our queen is like, "Fuck you."
Junpei, I've just been through one of the worst experiences of my life because of you. I know Tsukasa hurt you and your brother, but that's all in the past now. I believe you when you say you're sorry, and I think I understand how you feel. But I wasn't about to let you know that. Maybe I'll forgive you one day, but not yet.
Episode 34. Tsukushi gets a bad haircut from her mom, so Louis fixes it for her. Tsukasa nearly has a heart attack when he sees them together, but he invites Tsukushi to attend his 18th birthday party so he can introduce her to his mom. And he insists that she brings a present because he is a child. So she makes him a dessert, but when she arrives, everyone is dressed to the nines. So Tsubaki gives Tsukushi a makeover, and Tsukushi is like, what? And they're like, "You don't get it. Tsukasa's mom, Kaede, is hard to please, especially if you're a woman." Hashtag internalized misogyny. So they join the party, and when Kaede sees how Tsukasa reacts to Tsukushi, she storms over and she's like, "Introduce me, son," which startles Tsukushi, so she breaks a glass. Bad first impression. But Tsukasa is a bold motherfucker, cause he's like, "Mom, dis my girl." Episode 35. The F4 tries to cover ass by lying and saying that Tsukushi is actually a rich girl, but Kaede isn't buying it. She asks Tsukushi to show her accomplishments by playing them a song. Yeah, Kaede is not impressed. Tsukasa refuses to back down though, so she slaps him. God, now we know where he gets it from. Tsubaki stands up for Tsukasa and they make their getaway. Somehow Tsukushi just immediately falls asleep in the cab, and when she awakes, she finds herself on Tsukasa's yacht. Episode 36.
I'm hungry.
That's no reason to take it out on me.
Being hungry makes me irritable, okay?
He is literally a child. They try to fish up a dinner, but really Tsukasa just trauma dumps about his family sucking and how he loves Tsukushi's family. And Tsukushi is like, "Why do you like me?" And he's like, "Who knows?" Super productive conversation. Tsukushi remembers that she baked something for his birthday, but is too embarrassed to give it to him. And she should be! Cookies of his face? Why? But he kisses her, and he's super happy about it. So she heads back home, realizing she's in deep shit because he is obsessed with her. And Tsukasa ransacks Louis' house to brag about the cookies and Tsukushi, which would be so cute if it weren't for the rest of his personality. Kaede ends up visiting the Makino household and offers to pay them 50 million yen if Tsukushi promises to never see Tsukasa again.
I don't believe it. He's the one who's been chasing after me.
Tsukushi's mom responds by dumping salt all over Kaede's head. Episode 37. So Kaede is pretty salty about the response, and she leaves. And the whole reasoning behind Tsukushi's mom's rejection is because she wants Tsukushi to marry rich. Tsubaki is nervous about what Kaede's up to. She's Team Tsukasa, because she knows what it's like to be ripped away from the love of her life. Mini flashback, Tsubaki is gay, but for none other than the rando health teacher? You know, the one that is barely worth mentioning because she doesn't really contribute to the story. Tsukushi is escorted to meet Kaede, and when she arrives, Tsukasa is also there. And then they bring in this girl that they very clearly kidnapped named Shigeru, Tsukasa's fiancé. Episode 38. Neither Tsukasa nor Shigeru seem thrilled by the sudden engagement, but the moms are so into it. And Tsukushi is just standing there awkwardly. Tsukasa decides to make a break for it, but he accidentally grabs Shigeru instead of Tsukushi. Tsukushi is pissed because that was hella embarrassing, and she assumes that Tsukasa must have been dating Shigeru on the sly the whole time, because why else would he grab her? Which is fair, because how do you make that mistake? Shigeru is like, what the hell is your deal? And does not appreciate Tsukasa's attitude issues, so she tackles him and like, nibbles on his ear? And that gets him flustered, so she's like, damn, he kinda cute though. Tsukushi refuses to listen to Tsukasa's explanations, and when he tries to stop her from leaving, she kicks him in the crotch. She then bumps into Shigeru on the school campus. Shigeru is actually really nice, and she mentions that was her first time meeting Tsukasa, aka he did grab her by accident. When the F4 arrives, Shigeru is very flirty. Tsukasa tries to punch her because he's a maniac, but Shigeru claims that she'll tame him for their marriage. Episode 39. Tsukushi leaves, but Shigeru follows and strong-arms her into hanging out. Shigeru confesses to Tsukushi that she wants true love, but knows it's impossible. She's grateful that Tsukasa isn't half bad and is like her age. And Tsukushi is annoyed hearing her talk about Tsukasa. And Shigeru senses her annoyment and is like, I'm sorry, I'm bothering you, aren't I? That's why I don't have any friends. Which makes Tsukushi feels bad, so she unwittingly agrees to help Shigeru with her love life. And at this point, it's unclear if Shigeru is blissfully unaware of Tsukasa's feelings for Tsukushi, or if she's being purposely ignorant. So Tsukushi is like, hey, Tsukasa confessed to me. And Shigeru is like, oh, do you like him? And Tsukushi is vehemently like, no way. So Shigeru is like, okay, so what's the problem then? And as Tsukushi hangs out with Louis, she remembers how she used to love him, and it's confusing her. Episode 40. Shigeru drags Tsukushi on a shopping spree to buy clothes for a date with Tsukasa. And she's like, do you have a crush? I could help you.
You're a pretty girl. If I was a guy, I'd fall in love with you.
Can you imagine if Tsukushi ditched both Louis and Tsukasa for Shigeru? That's the dream couple, to be honest. She even buys Tsukushi the expensive outfit she was eyeing. When Tsukushi returns home, she finds Tsukasa waiting for her. He's upset that she's been avoiding him. Tsukushi is like, you have a fiancé, and she's a better match for you than me. So he slaps her, which surprises them both somehow. Like, whoa, I can't believe I did that. I can.
It's strange, but I didn't even mind him hitting me.
That's because you've been traumatized into normalizing this abusive behavior. And later that evening, Tsukushi finds out from Shigeru that Tsukasa has officially asked her out. Episode 41. Tsukushi pretends to be happy for her, but she ain't. Even when Tsukasa personally confirms it himself, she just congratulates them. Then she flashbacks to all of their kisses, including the one where he assaulted her. Ah, the good days. But it's hard for Tsukushi to move on, because Shigeru drops by every night to tell her about what they did on their dates. And Tsukushi is ranting to Louis, because she wants him to tell Tsukasa to tell Shigeru to knock it off. But Louis' like, nah, that's none of my business. Then they overhear Tsukasa and Shigeru fighting in the schoolyard. And Shigeru is like, if you're actually over Tsukushi, you'll kiss me, right now. And so he does. Tsukushi watches in avid horror. Episode 42. Even Louis is shocked about the turn of events. Tsukushi tries to play it cool, but she's starting to lose it. Louis takes Tsukushi out for some tea after work, and while they're there, they run into Shigeru and Tsukasa, who are on a date. So then it becomes a double date. And somehow the conversation becomes about sex, and Tsukushi is like encouraging Tsukasa to bang Shigeru in a hotel room? I don't know. But Shigeru invites them all over to her villa, which Tsukushi wants to veto. But Louis is like, you got a hot spring? I'm in. So they drive there. Episode 43. So they arrive at the villa. Louis immediately goes for the hot springs. He's got a one-track mind. Shigeru follows his move and drags Tsukushi into the hot spring. Tsukushi is full of regrets, and she ends up passing out. Shigeru runs out screaming about Tsukushi's fainting spell. I guess she couldn't pull Tsukushi out herself? And Tsukasa immediately guns for the rescue, but Louis beats him to the punch. Tsukushi wakes up, fully embarrassed that Louis saw her nude, and she's not loving the fact that they're being forced to share a bed for the night, or the idea of Tsukasa sharing one with Shigeru. So she ends up holding Louis' hand to comfort herself. But Shigeru is not smashing Tsukasa because he's sulking. And she tries to bring up their future, but Tsukasa is like, is this what you want or what your family wants? Because I won't let someone choose my future for me. And Shigeru rightfully is like, why are you telling me this now? And then she strips, and it's cringe how desperate she is for his attention. Episode 44. Tsukushi talks with Louis, and she comes to the conclusion that although she doesn't love Louis, she cherishes him greatly. Meanwhile, Tsukasa is telling Shigeru to get dressed because he doesn't want her. He doesn't love her. And she literally throws a tantrum, throwing chairs out windows and smashing shit, as Tsukasa confesses he's not over Tsukushi. Tsukushi and Louis hear the commotion and are like, what's going on?
What if he's trying to rape her?
Crazy how that's the first conclusion you come to. And you still want this man? So Tsukushi decides to go check in on them. And when she does, Shigeru is on top of Tsukasa, and she's like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I heard the noise. Didn't realize y'all were busy. And she runs away. No one really bothers to explain to her what's actually happening. It's for later drama. But Shigeru cries because she just got her heart broke. The next day, they all leave. I'm just glad that Shigeru isn't a spiteful bitch. Episode 45. Tsukushi returns home to find her family packing. Her dad finally found a job, but requires them all to move to a small fishing town. So Tsukushi is going to be left by herself until she finishes high school. Quick side tangent! Tsukushi has been the one supporting the family ever since her dad lost his job. That includes covering her and her brother's tuition fees, the groceries, the rent, the whole shebang. And 2 episodes ago, she was ranting to Louis about how she just finished a 5-hour shift, which means she's a part-timer. How the fuck has she been single-handedly supporting the entire family on a part-time salary? That makes no sense. Even if it was the 90s and inflation was different, I don't get it. But it doesn't matter because our girl is more concerned about Tsukasa than her living situation. Louis calls her out. How long are you gonna pretend like you don't like him? And Tsukushi fires back, how long are you gonna pretend that you don't love Shizuka? Ouch! Brutal! Episode 46. So everyone is in a bad mood all the time now. Tsukasa tries to talk to Tsukushi, but she's not having it. And he grabs her and she's like, no, think of Shigeru! Kazuya, Yuki, and Makiko throw Tsukushi a little housewarming party, where they help her decorate her new single household apartment. Kazuya is like, you could live with me, you know. Just kidding, unless? And at the end of the episode, Shigeru arrives as the new transfer student at their high school. Episode 47. Shigeru allegedly transfers to be closer to Tsukasa, which is a cringe move because he very much rejected her. And she nibbles on his ear in public? Girl is out of control. The mean girls totally ship it though, because Shigeru is not Tsukushi, and they're bullying her about Tsukasa's new engagement. But Shigeru appears and is like, bestie, there you are! And the mean girls 100% pull a Draco Malfoy and are like, we can show you the right types of people to hang out with. But Shigeru is like, y'all suck, and if I catch you being mean to my girl Tsukushi again, hands will be flying. And then Shigeru apologizes to Tsukushi for causing her trouble with the transfer. She is an angel, and Tsukushi is not nearly nice enough to her. Tsukushi is hanging out with Louis later, still in denial about her feelings. Shigeru is like, we should totally double date again. And Louis is like, if there's a hot spring, I'll be there. One track mind. But lo and behold, Shizuka is back. And she confesses?
Louis, I've come back to be with you.
Episode 48. Tsukushi grabs Shigeru and they dip, but not before hearing Shizuka pleading with Louis about her love for him. And Louis hugs her, and he says he's always loved her, and it's cute and we're happy for them. There's a posting about an exchange student program, and when Tsukushi hears that Louis will be moving back to Paris to be with Shizuka, Tsukushi's like, maybe I should get out of here too. But what really emboldens her is overhearing Tsukasa say, good luck and good riddance. So she's determined to leave. Louis is like, hey, are you sure you're not avoiding certain things and certain people? But she's too stubborn to budge. And on the morning of the exam day to get into the program, Tsukasa approaches her and is all pouty like, will you really leave? And she's like, I have no reason to stay. So she takes the exam. And she passes! Episode 49. So she passed, but no one's really happy about it, including Tsukushi. Shigeru is begging her to stay, which is weird, and that rando health teacher is like, why do you want your love rival to stay? But leaves before Shigeru can answer. Tsukasa congratulates her, but also throttles her with a hug, and she's like, bro, no. And he punches a wall. He goes home only to find out that Kaide rigged the exam so that Tsukushi would pass and be out of his life.
Go to hell, you evil bitch!
Tsukasa runs to Tsukushi's house and tells her the truth about the exam, about what really happened with Shigeru at the villa. And he's like, "You're the only one for me." And my girl's like, does that mean he likes me? Obviously yes! And they kiss, and they're officially in it to win it. Episode 50. So she finally caved in. She tells the school that she's dropping out of the exchange program. But Tsukasa has been weirdly absent. And then Shigeru arrives, and she's like, something weird is going down at the Domyoji house. So the whole group goes over to see what's up. Bars on his window like fucking Harry Potter. They are escorted into the house where Kaede is like, he's totally fine, now leave. But Tsukushi goes on a whole monologue about how Tsukasa and her are in love, and how Kaede is a coward, afraid of losing him forever. Kaede obviously is pissed, so she slaps Tsukushi, but Tsukushi slaps back. Then Tsukasa breaks out of his jail cell by jumping out the window, and then through another window, for dramatic effect. And he's bleeding, about to fall over, but Tsukushi catches him. And she's cleaning him up, where she fucking dumps him. Why? After that fucking speech to Kaede? After y'all just got together? With one episode left in the entire series. Why? I am in no way Team Tsukasa, but what is the fucking point? Episode 51, the last episode. 3 months pass because why not? Neither Tsukasa nor Shigeru have attended school because clearly getting an education is no one's priority. Louis is now living in Paris with Shizuka. Kazuya and Sakurako are besties now, and the mean girls have moved on to bullying someone else, which I guess Tsukushi is just gonna ignore. She even has a new guy flirting with her. But none of that matters because it's announced that Tsukasa and Shigeru are getting married. The entire school watches them depart for their honeymoon. They actually got married. That Reino health teacher gives Tsukushi a note from Tsukasa saying that he plans to divorce Shigeru as soon as possible, wait for things to calm down, then come back for her. So Tsukushi jumps onto the ship and she's like, how can he do that to Shigeru? But psych! Shigeru is the one who orchestrated the whole letter. The minute Tsukasa rejected her, she's like, well, they should get together then. And this way Kaede can't interfere. Then she jumps ship, literally. How she doesn't drown in that heavy-ass wedding dress, we'll never know. And Kazuya shows up with this boat and he picks her up. And Kaede finally gives in. And Tsukasa and Tsukushi travel the world together on his yacht. The end! I think I've made it pretty clear how I feel about this anime. I hated it. I was actually pretty invested in it though. It was like watching a car crash. I just couldn't look away. Tsukushi, I loved her. She's a great heroine. She doesn't sit around taking shit from other people. And when characters fucked her over, she wasn't spiteful, but she also wasn't immediately forgiving. She asserts her boundaries, she's confident, she's competent, and she's pretty self-aware of her own shortcomings. What makes this series so bad is the male lead, Tsukasa. Because, let's be real, Wikipedia calls this show a reverse harem. It is not. Akira nor Sojiro ever show interest in Tsukushi, and for what I gleaned on the internet, they don't do it in the manga either. So at best, it's a love triangle, but even Louis never really presents interest in Tsukushi. You know pretty early on that Tsukasa is going to be the one she ends up with. Which is sad and scary because he is introduced as this awful bully, and then he literally assaults her, repeatedly, for the entire show. He's incredibly violent and ill-tempered, and sure, there are some cute moments, but he's mostly just a really scary guy. I don't want that kind of relationship. It's repulsive. I can't get over it. And just the sheer amount of violence and assault that happens to Tsukushi, despite her being such a badass. It seems like the show is saying, no matter what you do, you can't win.
Looks like I'm gonna have to give in sooner or later.
And it sucks. Most of the side characters are assholes setting up traps for Tsukushi to fall into, so they aren't enjoyable to watch on screen. I mean, truly, Tsukushi is the only likable character in the show. Everyone else sucks. Even Louis, whom I liked best out of the F4, is pretty cold. And he also tried assaulting Shizuka, lest we not forget. The storytelling sucks. I mean, aside from the overall abuse and toxic relationships, it does a lot of telling instead of showing.
I don't believe it. I'm blushing.
And towards the end, when Shigeru comes along, it's just constant inner monologues of Tsukushi being like, why am I sad? Ugh, I don't like Tsukasa. Or do I? Oh, I don't know. Which gets pretty tiring quickly. If I'm being honest, after episode 20 or so, I started watching the entire series on 1.5 speed, which made the show a lot more enjoyable. I mean, it's just very slow paced. Back then, they had a pad out for TV time, so it's full of constant flashbacks and long, pregnant pauses. As far as the animation goes, it's from the 90s and hasn't aged well. There's this one scene where Sakushi's over at Sakurako's house, and she vanishes from the window. I can't really find a reason to ever justify watching the show, especially 51 episodes of it, so maybe just don't. Thanks for watching. This one has been a long time coming. Sorry for swearing so much. I've been trying to do it less, but as it turns out, half of my vocabulary is cursing and the other half is outdated slang that no one uses anymore. So it's a lose-lose situation. Oh, I just thought of something that I actually liked about Boys Over Flowers. All of the names, super easy to pronounce. The hardest one is Louis because it's spelled R-U-I, so I kept wanting to call him Rui, but they call him Louis in the dub. Other news, I started watching Campfire Cooking in Another World. It's pretty good. The only thing I don't like about it so far is that every time he cooks, I get insanely hungry, and honestly, that's the majority of the show. I'm not doing a review on it, I just want to talk about it. The next review I'm doing, actually, I'm pretty hyped for. I've never seen it, so it could be trash, but the front cover is everything. I have to know more. Anyways, that's it for today. See y'all in the next one. Bye!